If you've played Battlefield for any amount of time, you know that there's one thing that's always defined it: the specialist. I was gonna say the specialist, but the classes, medics, engineers, support. That's the DNA of the series. But in Battlefield 6, that's suddenly up for debate. By default, anyone can run any gun on any class. The closed mode still exists, but open is the baseline and the direction that EA and DICE seem to want to push us to. And that choice has lit a fire under the community. To me, this isn't giving players a choice. It's the illusion of choice. Because if open is the default, that's the experience most players are going to live in, with a class identity war that could define Battlefield 6. But first, we should rewind a bit. Battlefield 1942 might have the most prime example of what I'm talking about. Let me introduce you to anti-tank. Now you might be thinking, does anti-tank get bolt-action rifles, LMGs? No. Anti-tank gets a pistol, and a bazooka, and a knife, and that's basically it. Now that might be just a little bit hardcore for today's standards, but by Battlefield 3, things clicked. Medics weren't even called medics and were just folded into the assault class, running ARs, dropping medkits, reviving teammates. Support? That was your LMG backbone, handing out ammo and locking down lanes, while your engineers blew up tanks with RPGs and patched them up with the repair tool. And recon? Yeah, they were still the snipers camping on hills, but they had spawn beacons and gadgets that when you looked at a full BF3 or BF4 squad, every piece had a role. And if you played it back then, you felt it. And that's what made the chaos work. Battlefield 1 added history to that same structure. Battlefield 5 stuck with it, even if people argued endlessly about the balance and how terrible the game was. But then Battlefield 2042 came along. Specialists. Anyone could do anything. And then suddenly the structure that held squads together historically, gone. For a lot of players, that was the moment Battlefield stopped feeling like Battlefield. So here we are. Battlefield 6 is back to classes, but with a twist. Just like 2042, anyone can use any weapon. Closed does still exist as a playlist, but DICE has made their intent crystal clear. Open is the main experience, and I feel like they were trying to bury closed mode to an extent. Now with that being said, even in open, classes do get buffs for sticking to their role. Like how support reloads LMGs faster and carries more ammo if you run them. Or like how assault gets slight perks for running assault rifles. And then for me, the biggest one is how if you run a sniper on the recon class, every headshot prevents them from being able to be revived, which is actually kind of busted the more that I think about it. The idea seems to be that DICE wants to nudge players towards an identity, but without forcing it, hence the illusion of choice. But does that actually work? And yeah, I get it. This kind of seems like another thing for Battlefield fans to be bitching about right before the game drops. Everyone is just bickering about everything. It seems like the main argument for the people that want to keep classes closed is that the roles are the core of Battlefield, like we talked about. Medics heal, engineers fight armor, support feeds ammo, recon scouts. Without that structure, the whole squad identity completely falls apart. And if you've been playing this series long enough, you might agree. When everyone has a job, Battlefield does feel unique and does separate itself from other games in the genre. And that's not a hot take. That's just how the game has functioned more or less outside of Battlefield 2042 for over 20 years now. And it does feel a little bit crazy that the one feature that came out of 2042 that people want isn't 128 v 128 or anything like that. Definitely not specialists. It's open weapons. It makes a lot of sense the more you think about it. Why should you be locked into one or two weapon types just because you want to play medic? And yes, I understand that the nuances are a little bit different. The details are different in Battlefield 6 than what I'm actually saying, but my point stands. For them, open is about flexibility and fun. I had one commenter that really opened my perspective about this. He said, I like open gameplay better because I saw way more supports in open lobbies than closed. And in a weird way, I think he might be right. From my experience in the beta, I did see that more people were just willing to take on more of a team role when they can use the guns that they enjoy. What really is the difference between a medic using an SMG versus an AR? And what's really the difference between them using an LMG or an AR? They can shoot for longer, I guess, but does that really mean that they're not willing to be a team player because they can shoot for longer or shoot less? Just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. From my perspective, when it came to the beta, I think a lot of things did get messy at times though. Assault and support both turned into these all-purpose monsters, rifles, shotguns, SMGs, and for support they could do everything, resupply themselves, heal infinitely. It was kind of a mess. I could see how this could break squad balance. The best way to play recon was to just grab an SMG, grab a spawn beacon, and then just go take points infinitely. But my question is, does closed actually enforce squad identity? And does open get more people playing Battlefield in an era where freedom and choice are much more prevalent than they've been in the past in terms of game design? And that's why the community is split. Veterans have been pointing out that the closed playlist was buried inside of the beta menu, like DICE is testing the waters but doesn't really want people to play it. I saw people saying that it felt like DICE was just using closed to gather data before doubling down on open anyway. From DICE's perspective, they said open solves what they call the quote-unquote assault problem, where players pick classes based on the weapon they want and not the role that they want. So they built in perks and XP bonuses to reward you for staying in character. Stick with your class's intended weapons and you get full buffs and XP. It's their way of keeping structure alive without completely locking the door, and might show where their philosophy is headed in the future. And this is why the class war isn't just noise. It's the question of what Battlefield wants to be. If open is the default, most players will only experience Battlefield as a free-for-all. If closed gets sidelined, veterans will feel abandoned. But on the other hand, if DICE pushes too hard into closed, new players will just bounce off because of the restrictions. It's a balancing act that could decide the identity of the entire franchise, now and in the future. So I guess now it's time for me to give my spicy hot take, and honestly, I think open makes more sense for where Battlefield is right now. And hear me out before you light me up in the comment section. Closed feels authentic. I get that. I grew up on that structure. I played 1942 as a kid, Battlefield 2, Battlefield 3. I remember the good days, even Battlefield 1. But here's the thing. In reality, most players don't stick to those roles. We've all been in matches where the support never drops ammo, where the engineer forgets their repair tool. Closed classes look great on paper, but open actually gets people into the roles more often because they aren't locked into a weapon that they hate. The type of weapon that someone used doesn't make them a good squad mate. It's how they play regardless of what weapon they have in their hands. Like in the beta, I saw way more people playing support in open than in closed. Why? Because in open they could grab a weapon that they were comfortable with and still heal or resupply the squad. That's a win. And if the whole point is to keep people filling roles, why punish them for wanting freedom? And if you're worried about a medic picking up a sniper and sitting in the back healing himself infinitely, that guy wasn't gonna be a good team player even in closed. And yeah, DICE has clearly leaned into open as the main experience, but they didn't force it. To me, that's the right middle ground. Encourage identity without making the game feel restrictive. And by the way, closed mode still exists. Even if you have to scroll a little bit to find it, it is still there for you. At the end of the day, Battlefield needs players and roles more than it needs players stuck with weapons they don't enjoy. And if open helps more people actually pick support, pick medic, pick recon, then honestly, maybe that's what saves the class system going forward. So now it's your turn. Should Battlefield 6 lean more into closed classes, or is open the future of the series? Drop your take in the comments and subscribe if you want more Battlefield content heading in the launch. I'm new here on YouTube, and your support would mean everything to me. We're only just getting started.